Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
And we welcome you on this edition of Night Shift. UCF with a 38-31 win over the Tulane Green Wave in this top 25 matchup. Eric Lopez alongside Kyle Nash, Andrew Glukoff. We're going to recap this game. What does this win mean? Oh, we got plenty to talk about. We got the starting quarterback debate that continues on. Gus's play calling. What else? Am I missing anything?
What you have for breakfast?
Yeah.
So we're going to be getting into all of that coming up here on this edition of Night Shift. Of course, you could send your comments and your questions on our chat room. By the way, we're going to, in dedication to Cossack Advisor, who obviously was a great fan of ours, and certainly we enjoyed his, obviously, content. He passed away, unfortunately, Friday, we found out. And we're going to dedicate this episode, all comments. We're going to call the comment section in honor of Cossack Advisor. It's going to be the Cossack Advisor chat room from now on. So let's kind of acknowledge him because he's one of the better ones. Good UCF fans. He's probably smiling right now, creating, James. He's probably creating a nice photo of Gus and UCF and JRP with the victory, guys, because that was a wild game. It was an interesting game. Knights come out with the 38-31 win. Good job, Mike. That's right. Otis also. This was Otis Anderson's anniversary of his passing. So a lot of people were following UCF here, I think, from above in this game. And the big story, JRP gets the start. Kyle, to your credit, you called this on the podcast this week. You said JRP would start. You think that it will get into all the reasoning behind it. And he certainly made Gus look good with his performance, throwing for $132 and a touchdown, but running for 18 and 176. UCF as a team ran for 336 yards on the ground, and they beat Tulane 38-31 and pretty much controlled their own fate as far as they went out. They will be hosting for the conference. They will be hosting the conference championship game, and quite frankly, are the favorites now to get to New Year's Six and represent the Americans. So, Kyle, because you called this JRP start correctly, I will start with you, and then Drew, your thoughts as well. Give me your thoughts, Kyle, in this game.
Sure. I mean, listen, I'll be clear about one thing, Eric. I appreciate the props, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring along my good friend, the stat boy, with me. We both were saying that JRP would start if and when he's healthy. So, him coming out. Also, I think it was you who pointed out on the podcast, Elo, that Tulane's run defense is their weaker point. Gus opted to attack that. And listen, UCF hater fans in full form, JR pouting the moment the news of his start started to hit. And I'll grant he missed some passes, sure, but he also hit one across his body, across the entire field to make a crucial first down late. You're going to get that sort of thing with JRP where one play he's going to miss something that's easy and hit the really hard pass. Listen, a lot of people in college think that Tim Tebow was an excellent college player as well. It's that same kind of vibe, I feel like, with John Rhys Plumlee. But if we're going to blame anybody for anything on why this is close, and Drew, I think you'll agree with me on this. No, I'm not bringing up the officiating. The defense in rare form, giving up a lot of yards on the ground. And listen, man, you're the one that started kind of opening up that the defense was becoming a bit more flawed. Obviously, missing Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, I feel like that showed a bit tonight. The safeties had a bunch of injuries amongst them. Drew, I mean, in your mind, the defense did not deliver, and that's the biggest problem, air quotes, I would have with this game, other than the fact that it was a W for the Knights. I did pick 35-31. I said in the roundtable that all it would take is 35 points. I reminded our good friend Jeff Sharon in our group chat that it would take 35 points. And I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen, is all I can say to him. Drew, what say you about the defense, buddy?
Well, I mean, aside from Jeff Sharon go full Chicken Little in our group, and you had to kind of put him back in his place.
It's a bad sign when I'm the optimist. Like, that's a bad sign.
Eric Lopez.
Like, what are you doing?
Pessimist.
Right.
The guy, the shut the program down kind of guy is the optimistic one of that old married couple.
I don't know what happened.
Let's just put that in perspective. But to get back to, as I'm choking on Powerade, to get back, excuse me, on topic, going into this game, you knew UCF's defense was going to hurt. They're missing Jean Baptiste. They're missing Devon Wilson. They're missing their starting safeties. I mean, this was a defense that was already handicapped to begin with, and you saw it tackling, especially as the game got longer and they're on the field longer. Tackling started getting just downright sloppy. You think that these guys had baby oil on them with the amount of ability to catch ball and just turn just right, just to get out of that tackle. They did a really good job. Tulane did at avoiding being brought down.
Heck, Drew, let me add to that. You mentioned they got oil on them. Heck, I feel like a lot of times UCF was either completely out of position or unable to get a hold of the defenders. And listen, you coughing up Powerade, I think is great method acting for UCF's offense and how much they had to execute and run toward the end of that game. That's where I'll leave that.
They were there. As we know, the Tulane Fighting Willie Fritzes are one of the most scrappy groups out there. Willie Fritz is a scrappy coach. This program has been scrappy for years.
Correct.
That attitude has not changed. So you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And UCF, through missed opportunities, and this is both on offense and defense, allowed them to stay in the game and make this closer than it really was. UCF should have put this game away.
Well, I think back, Drew, to the roughing the kicker call. The missed kick, UCF would have had possession there. Could have really put the way in the first half. That gave Tulane a free touchdown there.
The thing is, and I know exactly what Kyle's going to say, and I'm going to intercept him on it because it was the same drive.
Correct.
There was a fumble, and trying to be hero and picking up the ball instead of just falling the ball. And when it's right at your feet, it's a little more difficult than the guy sliding in, sure. But they were trying to pick it up, and that's always harder. They actually bumped into each other. They knocked each other out of the play. So you have that. Then you have that stupid roughing call. I mean, do I think that was roughing the kicker? Absolutely not. That was a 5-yard running the kicker at best.
You're still skipping the phantom defensive pass interference. Drew.
Oh, I'm not even touching those. Those were so bad.
And by the way, the officiating was terrible on both sides.
You have the ESPN crew complaining about how bad the officiating is. But here's the truth. You can't blame that if you win or lose because there's other opportunities within the game to make it happen. And when in that drive, just everything seemed to kind of cascade on each other at the same time, same drive. Those interferences happened on the same drive, the fumble, and then the roughing on the missed field goal. That all happened at this, in the same stretch. Mm-hmm. So you take that away, and it was much cleaner outside of that. You had some holding calls, as we know. There's holding on every play. The question is, do you call it or not? They were very loose with the flags, and you start seeing makeup calls later on.
Yep.
But the truth is, there was a number of opportunities. And on offense, there was opportunities to put points on the board, and they didn't. Why are you running? Johnny Richardson at 3rd and goal inside the 2-yard line.
Fair question.
That screams Isaiah Bowser. Yeah, I mean, you can even get away with it with R.J. Harvey, but throw your little guy in there. What do? You ran to a wall.
Well, there were some calls there. It was something, boy. Like, trust me, that's one of them. But there was something. There was some there that you're kind of like, okay, well, that's a little.
Yeah, and that the passing game wasn't there. You had 20+ mile-per-hour winds there. That's the reason why. 1, we saw a lot of Plumlee's legs, and 2, I could see that played a role. Even if it's not a full role, a partial role in why he started in the first place. It's about matchups. And in this case, you were going to be running the ball a lot. So you want the guy with the legs. Now, he's got to work on his ball control because, he dodged a bullet on that would-be fumble if there was a little more obscuring of the ball. He got very lucky.
Or just timing, Drew. If his knee hits just a little bit later, that's a legitimate fumble.
Fortunately that they found an angle that showed that he was down. I mean, that could have changed the game. Brian W. Peterson sent in imagine if that thing stays as a fumble, or they would have ruled it a fumble.
I think it was actually a slicing of two different angles. Yeah. Because you could see the ball in one angle, but you can see that where the knee was relative in the other angle, and you could put the two together. And make the argument that, there's evidence here that he had the ball at the point that the knee hit the ground. But, I mean, that's tempting fate. You don't want to tempt fate. So, you know what? After that, he started sliding with his legs. Good. Do more of that. You don't have to lean forward with your shoulder all the time. You're going to separate your shoulder at some time or get another concussion. Don't want that.
I think that's it's a good description. It's a good description, Drew. Tempting fate. I think that's a good description of UCF at times here attempted some fate there that almost cost them. That's a good word.
There's always a risk. There's always a risk. And, it's about mitigating risk. I work in the insurance industry. It's all about mitigating risk and finding the best way to make it work.
But I think that might lead you to be a little bit conservative and safe at times, Drew. And listen, if you've learned nothing of Gus Malzahn, he's going to roll it out. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we got to get into some of the calls, because that 4th and 1, and I know people are trying to defend it by saying, look, they thought he jumped off sides. It was a
there's no thing.
No. Are you talking about the one with Bowser in the past? Yeah, the guy jumped offside.
Yeah, but they didn't call it. You're assuming they're calling it. I don't care if he was offside. I would not have run that play regardless, and they got fortunate.
Let's break into a couple things here, because first of all, the take that the refs bailed UCF out is a horrible take, and is not a take that anybody who legitimately thinks they can follow football should take. And let me tell you why. That play, it starts entirely with the center freelancing. Now, I would never coach it this way. I'll be 100% with that. But Matt Lee, maybe working with Coach Hand or Coach Gus, Coach Hand, of course, being the O-line coach, has been individually briefed, or they have an understanding that if they see somebody very obviously jump off sides, he's going to snap it and get the free 5. There is no such thing as a free lunch, though, to your point, Elo. Now, in the heat of that moment, is Matt going to practice? Are they going to practice? All right, the officials are going to suck this week. Don't snap it if they jump. Obviously not. Matt Lee did what his job was based on whatever it is they have set up going into the game. So to kind of say, and
that's a chance. That's a chance you're taking. If that ref doesn't throw the flag on pass interference, think of the conversation we're having right now. And look, there was a similar situation last week. Remember, they lined up for a 64-yard field goal. Turns out they weren't supposed to snap it. What happened? They snapped the ball, and they kicked the ball, and it was almost cost them. It's a risky deal there.
See, here's the thing. You say
a mad scientist, isn't he?
Yeah, you say risky. It's risky in the sense that when you play roulette, the best bet is red or black. If it hits a green tile for one of the zeros, you can't account for that. To assume the officiating is going to be this bad is obviously a bad assumption. We've
been in the league for a decade. We should have an idea by now.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I hate to bring officiating into it, but if I'm talking about officiating, that's how bad it was tonight, folks.
Yeah, I think that was a good good prep for the Big 12 next year, because that's going to be a weekly. Trust me, the Big 12 is
defenses go to die.
Yeah. So,
but that being said, what a pass by Bowser.
Seriously, I think he can make a case for QB1.
Oh, stop. See,
it was a beautiful throw. Jeremy should have caught that.
Now,
he should have probably. No, I'm just saying. All this talk about we can't throw in the wind. That was a beautiful throw by Bowser. He could. I think I would feel pretty good if he was under shotgun at quarterback. If he's our third string guy, right? If something were to happen.
Emergency guy.
Yeah, I think I actually would feel pretty good. No, am I wrong?
I hear that, but listen, give this much credit too. When you got a guy who's as fast as JRP, underthrowing him is the issue. He managed to put it out there. Maybe he had the 20 mile per hour wind at his back to help him. I don't know, Drew. You could tell me that, but in my mind, he led him just right to where it's that ball where you just think he's about to overthrow him, and then all of a sudden JRP runs under it, gets interfered with. I still think he should have caught it. I'm gonna call that what it is.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I'm just glad it worked out. I'm just glad it worked out that a flag was thrown for whatever the reason. Because if it wasn't, oh my goodness.
I don't see how you can fault Gus here, though. The play worked. Even with all
Dude, it was crappy. That was
all that going on.
Here's what I'm going to use a couple of words here describing
that
Gus.
was a cluster.
No, this is
I
what I'm
would
going
say
to
the play worked. I would say that everything around it exploded, and they just happened to be standing in the right place at the right time.
How was that different?
Here's how I'm going to describe Gus. Cojones y huevos. Huevos grande, boys. That guy's got, I will say that, whether you agree with him or not, that's what he has. He's got a big brass. I think everybody can agree.
He's not afraid of George Leary always says, you're either the GOAT or the GOAT.
Right.
And he means obviously greatest of all time, or means no. So take your pick. I can see Gus going in the same camp on that. Either you're a genius, or man, you suck. It's either
I really
all
respect
column A or all column B.
I respect the fact he's got, like, whether you agree with it or not, like going with JRP was gutsy because the backlash that comes with it if he doesn't win the game with JRP. I think, would you not agree, Drew?
I disagree on the move. It was, aside from, the fact that it's no secret at this point, they want to preserve Mikey Keene's red shirt. Right. So this was a perfect game not to play him.
But I think this confirms it now. I think I think.
Well, there was 20-mile-per-hour winds. I mean, this
there
was not.
It is, Drew. Say that a little louder for the people in the damn back.
There's a reason.
Hold on.
When you have quotes, a slow passer in Mikey Keene who does not have arm strength, he is all touch and accuracy.
He also has the two best wins they've had the last 2 years, and you guys know this.
Mother Nature doesn't give a damn.
That doesn't matter with the wind at that point. You
correct.
Go based on matches. This was going to be a run-heavy game. They had 230 yards in the first half.
Well, let's give the line. Let's give credit to the line. Line did their job on there. Let's be honest. I mean, JRP did his job. He ran the ball, but I got to be honest. Anybody could have run behind the holes at the offensive line. Let's give credit. We're quick to criticize the line when they struggled like they did earlier in the year. Let's give them credit when they deserve it. Yes, JRP made some great runs, but the reason he made some great runs, there were some good holes that the offensive line created. I don't think he was ever pressured. Do you remember any pressures on him?
There were some,
but not like egregious. Like
the reason why you're going to shake him off is because JRP can escape where Mikey Keene can't quite as well. And by the way, you're throwing props to the O-line. I'm going to start shedding a little teal, Eric Lopez.
I'm a little disappointed you two haven't jumped on me. They did a heck of a job.
You're doing your job as a host, setting the table that good, brother. Don't put it on us. You're handling your business. By the way, if we're going to talk about things that are getting props, Malzahn late in the game going to split backs.
You love that. He was emotional.
But I just want to bring up some stuff. Look at the first half, the second half stats. The weather did change as the game went on. First half, Tulane passed for 64 yards. Only 14 attempts. And then as the game went on, weather got a little better. 25 attempts, 172 yards. So they started throwing the ball more, and that's what kept them in the game.
Up too, right, Drew?
Say what?
Some of that's trying to catch up a bit too. They were
they threw the ball 14 versus 25 times. That's part of it, but they struggled. They struggled moving the ball in the air in the first half.
Right.
You look at UCF's number. Yeah, their passing numbers went down considerably. It went from 88 to 44, but they were 7 of 8 in their throws. It was definitely run to set up the pass, which was always the plan.
And when you're up that big, aren't you trying to run the clock by running the football? Isn't that where Isaiah Bowser imposed his will towards the end?
The problem was it was only in one drive. It was only that last drive.
Pretty important drive, though.
It was a very important drive. It took 8 minutes off the clock. He ran the ball 12 times, including that touchdown. I mean, that was huge. But you look at it, 30 rushes in the first half with a 7.7 average for the team. 24 in the second half for a 4.4. 230 yards in the first half, 106 in the second half for rushing. It's just the running game kind of stalled a little bit. Teams adjusted, and UCF just really wasn't built to kind of go to a first offense. So they kind of floated a little bit. And the part of the problem is it goes back to what I was saying before. They left the points on the board. They should have put this away early on, and so they didn't have this problem. Remember, Tulane has shown that they can put points on very quickly. Look what they did in Memphis. Same thing. Went up 35-0 and then tapered off. And before you know it, it was 38-35 was the final score. So they could put up a lot of points. And I just never felt comfortable with UCF's league because they, the first drive, they got inside the 10, settled for a field goal. That second drive didn't get any points. So there's 11 points. Then there's the fumble / roughing the kicker. That's 18 points. Plus
PI.
Yeah. Plus the potential could have scored. So you have 18 direct points that you left on the table. And then you have a potential 7 points you could have scored, which would have made it 25 points. So you got 18 direct, 7 more indirect. That's a lot of points you left on the table.
And still, the game is won. I think that's the part we got with the bad win.
It should not have been this close.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. It's more, the UCF dominated more in other places other than one stat, which is definitely the most important, but score. I'm with you on that.
Oh, and give credit. Look, Tulane, you mentioned it, Drew. They're a scrappy team. They competed. Yeah. I thought they settled down a little bit in the second half. I thought you could tell they were, had some drops early. I thought they were a little tight. So yeah, it could. Right.
It wasn't until the end of the third quarter when that whole snafu with the way the quarter ended. I mean, what a crock of crap that was.
Oh my Lord!
I mean, what a joke. I mean, you talk about bad calls before. That was bad.
There's a lot of bad from the officiating. This is, by the way, this is Night Shift. Eric Lopez, Kyle Nash, Drew Glukoff. I want to read some comments here. A lot of comments coming in. So I'm going to try to get a couple here quick. Roger Greenberg says, another win in the books. All we have left is Navy and South Florida. We'll address that in a little bit. MG RIP James, well said there. Mike Doty won this game for Otis and James. Drew, you mentioned, I think this is Otis's birthday today, correct?
Yes.
It would have been his birthday.
This was Otis's birthday. His mom put a post online talking about it. And, I'm sure the players knew, or especially the ones that knew him, I'm sure they knew. Mm-hmm. Especially they came out of the gate firing. I mean, there was some motivation there. So, it was really, really important win, for the fans as well as the team. The team needed it for the standings purpose. I think the fans needed this too as a coping mechanism, as a way of reconciling some of these feelings. I mean, losing James so suddenly, just yesterday. That stings. I mean, because he was such an active member of the Twitter community, and I've met him
in a positive way too. Always positive to all the UCF teams. Always put a positive spin. I think, heck, I spoke to him a couple days ago. It just kind of spooked me. And he was talking about the positive of the women's soccer. It was just kind of crazy to find that out. That's
what kind of hits home is he was so active out that people were like, "Yeah, I just talked to him the other day." It's like it shows how fleeting life is. It's here and then it's not.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were friends with Lynn Cheek. She'd been fighting for a very long time. Sure. This kind of hit more out of nowhere and hits people in a different way, much like how when Otis passed, it just came out of nowhere because
we knew he was battling some health issues, but we thought he was kind of on the positive end, but unfortunately
there's that hits you emotionally in certain ways, and sports is a way of bringing people. Sports is like music. It's a way of bringing people together. And as we know that the Twitter mafia is a community. They really are. And this is a way for them to come together and say, win it for James. And they did. And they can rally around that. And it makes them feel good. And I think we all need that.
Hey, nothing wrong with a positive deal there. Fallen Hero, the base legend, on our Cossack Advisor chat room, as we're honoring James by naming the chat room after him. Fallen Hero, the base legend, JRP won this game with his legs. Look, that's his strength. That's the weapon that he brings. And I'll give Gus this. I know you guys think this was an obvious decision, but I really wouldn't have blamed him if he'd gone either way at the quarterback position.
Without the win, I would agree with you, Eric. That's the only thing that's making me say it's obvious. And that's the one thing I couldn't account for when I had actually said if I were Coach Malzahn, this would be a good week to start Mikey King and then bring JRP in as a change of pace, like we talked about on the Black and Gold Banneret podcast as well this week, Eric. Bing! And with all that in mind, I put that in with in the round table with kind of trying to put it into the universe and wishful thinking, and then the universe is like, no, fool, we gonna kick up that wind, and then make it obvious to start JRP.
But here's the thing about JRP, and I think this is what the coaching staff, best case scenario. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. You go with
You're
JRP
wrong.
here. Well, that's fair. What are you? All right, Jeff. There you go.
Now you simulated both of the members of that marriage, Eric.
Drew's very.
Man,
You know,
now can I now be Jeff Sharon as well as Eric Lopez?
That's
Do I have
right.
a new identity?
You're wrong. But look, here's the thing where I think the staff. I mean, this is an interesting game here and strategy here. You play JRP.
Right.
Short term, you think he gives you the best chance. He's mobile. He's starting. He gets you to the conference championship game. You get you to New Year's 6. Now, all of a sudden, you could say he comes back next year as the starter with experience going into a Big 12. That's going to be a tough schedule with 5 road games, 6 conference road games, 6 when you include Boise State. This could work out for the staff short term and long term. And Kyle, you made a great point on the podcast. And Drew, I think you made there's a relationship situation long term with this staff is like, hey, we're going to treat our players well. A kid's not going to, if a guy loses his job because he got concussed or an injury, that's going to look bad to recruits or other transfers down the road. And I think at the same time, the staff's also taking care of Mikey Keene. If Mikey Keene decides that he's moving on and he gets richer, I think there's a lot of things juggling here that goes beyond just this game and the win. I think there's a lot of stuff, and I think let's give the staff thoughts there. And I think it's a good strategy because I'm one that, yes, you want to win the conference championship this year, but I also don't think you should be at the expense of next year. So if you can win this year and benefit long-term, next year and beyond, when you're in the Big 12, you got to do that. So for that, I'm okay with the move.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff you're mentioning about juggling and all that there, Eric. That's a great point. The point I want to clarify is on the Black and Gold Banneret podcast, we didn't know yet like we do. We have hindsight on our side. Without having hindsight, the way
hindsight.
Did somebody? Yes, it's Captain Hindsight. No, I didn't have him, Drew. That's the point. What I'm getting to is this, and I'm going to use your word here, Drew. Concussions are incredibly tricky, okay? So you need to always err on the side of protecting the player, especially within the same bleeding state, I might add, where the Miami Dolphins are being scrutinized something silly about the whole situation going on with Tua Tagovailoa, right? You need to portray to the recruits out there that you are worried about their health before anything else. Now, whether or not that's true, listen, I'm not an investigative reporter. I know people who used to do that and do
I think
that.
they do, by the way. I think they do care. But I think there's the point is, I think there's a short-term game and a long-term game with this decision.
It's a juggling act. You've got to juggle the near, the now, and against the long term. There's no easy way, no one size fits all.
Unless an outside force like the wind comes in and sort of forces your hand. And as well, if JRP is clearing all his protocols and you've got doing everything you're doing, he feels well, the tests are going well, he's had the 2 weeks of rest, and the wind has come in. So if the UCF hater fans out there, all the JR powders, by the way, you can't spell JR powder without JP. I'm just throwing that out there. But the punchline is this. At the end of the day, there is no way at the start of the game that I would bring anybody in but JRP because of the win. Now, if Gus had come out in the second half and adjusted and brought in Mikey Keene with how good they were protecting and how much the wind had died down, to your point, Drew, I'd been behind that as well. Eric, you and I have been talking about with 2 quarterbacks that could actually pass the ball, unlike Mr. Gatewood, I'm sorry, why there isn't more change of pace with this group. I don't get it.
Well, I have an answer for that, and it goes back to that whole red shirt thing. If you're going to bring in Mikey Keene, you're going to start Mikey Keene, or he's coming in because that injury happened. I mean, but you're not going to bring him in, for mop-up duty. You're not going to bring him for like a 2-quarterback thing. I mean, it's pretty obvious based on comments.
How many games this season do you have left? I don't mean to cut you off, Drew, but I want to make sure I'm on your page.
Okay.
How many games does he have left eligibility-wise?
2 more, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. He plays Cincinnati, he plays East Carolina. So those games are valid. That's why we don't see Castellanos anymore. He's used all 4. So they're not going to break him out unless it's really bad.
So you think they're keeping that in the bag for later games, maybe? Like perhaps a championship or a bowl game?
Potentially. But the key is they want to make sure they don't exhaust.
I don't. By the way, I don't.
If you use all 4, and then you're in the
Yeah.
bowl game, and Plumlee gets hurt, what now?
Correct.
You're burning someone's red shirt.
Where you're assuming
they don't want to be in that position.
Well, that's an interesting point, though. Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's see what.
But Gus did say,
yeah,
that they wanted to preserve his red shirt. It sounds like there was something between him and Keene, because you don't usually do that unless there's something between. Unless you're like a freshman and you still got something to learn.
Oh, that's part of
or
college athletics. I think this is Drew. I think this is college athletics 2022 now. I think coaches and players have to be honest with each other on both sides, whether it be coaches telling a player, hey, I don't think you're in our future plans, or a player saying, look, coach, I don't feel really great about me. I think there's got to be communication. What you don't want to do is what happened. What you don't want to do is what happened in South Florida, where a quarterback was named, and Timmy McClain's like, I'm out of here.
And that could have happened, but you also have to. This also attributes is a testament to the person. Mikey Keene is a team player, and he wasn't going to do it. Plus, it was after the deadline. McClain left, but he really didn't gain much out of it because he can't play. So by Keene sticking around, he could still play. They're going to work to maintain his red shirt. He could transfer at the end of the year. He's not going to lose that year of eligibility. He'll still have 3 years to play, and everyone wins. And that's a good coach relationship with the player that wants to be a team player. I think that shows how both of them, they're upstanding guys.
Well, I think that's the point, Kyle, you've been making. I think this is the long-term game. This is why, yes, I do think next year plays a factor in this and the future, and doesn't mean that they're trying to sacrifice this year. I think this could be, if this works out, JRP plays well down the stretch, they win the conference championship, they go to the New Year's Six. Everybody wins in this scenario because UCF has an experienced winning quarterback coming back next year, potentially in the first year of the Big 12. Mike and Keene gets what he wants. The coaching staff everybody gets what they want. And I think there's a lot of things. And look, I admire, respect the coaches and how they've handled this, because a lot of coaches would not have handled this very well, guys. I know you're saying that this was an obvious thing. We've seen coaches in a lot of different levels that have butchered similar decisions like this.
No, that's fair. No, there have been errors abound. And Drew, I want to give you a little bit more credit over and above. You pointing this out is a very good point. And I think it also accents to the precise degree that Mikey Keene is a team player, right? We saw Dylan Gabriel start to basically quit once he knew he was leaving. But
he basically bailed.
My point exactly. But Mikey Keene is still ready at the drop of the hat, if catastrophe happens, to take this game to win, or take this team to win a big game. Props to the young man for that. And you know what? If he transfers, assuming that he does, we never know anything, especially in this day and age, tons of credit. And listen, he's one of the guys I'm going to be cheering for. And Eric, I would be remiss if I didn't call you out on your own logic. We still may not have actually met the 2023 starter yet.
Well, I've been wrong on the quarterback every move this year, so why not add another one, right? But that's it, It's been unique. It's been very unique. I want to bring this up because you two kind of brought this up during the game, and Mike Jody's bringing this up. Our edge coaching and DB coaching has been horrendous lately. I don't know about horrendous, that's a strong word, but you guys were commenting during the game. You weren't pleased with some of the UCF and the edge as far as containment was concerned.
Well, in fairness, let's get one thing out of the way, and then Drew, I'll let you go to work because listen, this is the kind of stuff that'll let you set up the knee-jerk reaction, which will come out later. Bing! Find that on the black and gold banner at .com, by the way. With all that in mind, let's get a couple things out the way. Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste not in the game, huge deal in my mind. Okay, his presence not there is a big factor. Also, a lot of injuries in the safeties. We mentioned that earlier, Drew. I think that has to be mentioned before we let the stat boy loose on the criticism. Fire at will, my good man.
Well, the truth is there was a lot of outside containment issues, but it's not the players. Actually, they're normally pretty good at it. This was just really good blocking schemes. Let's call it what it is. Tulane did an excellent job. They were able to pinch the outside and allow Spears to make those runs out on the edge.
You don't feel like they got pulled in a little bit, man?
Well, I mean they got pulled in a bit, but it was good blocking scheme. It was good schemes.
I'm not questioning that. Let me ask you this.
UCF has good defensive ends. They really do.
But if Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste, more veteran guys are in the outside that are more capable of reading that, is it a different game? I don't know.
Hard to say.
But it's fair. Yeah,
Jean-Baptiste is really good at pursuit. He knows angles really well, so he may have been able to help out with that. But as we know, outside containment, it's either an outside linebacker or defensive end. That's who has your outside containment. So at times, when they get pinched in, that's just good blocking scheme because they know who the target is. The target is Josh Skalskar and Tremont Morris Brash. Those are the guys you have to pinch and bring them in, or just hold the line and not allow them to get back to their outside containment, because you want to get the running back to cut back in, because that's where everybody is. You get to the outside, you get those huge chunk plays, and then add in now where the injuries come into play. Your safeties are out. You've got guys who are not quite as adept at tackling, so you're seeing more missed tackles, more guys out of position. But from the initial point, when you get in that, when you're still in the first level, that's just really good schemes by the offensive line. Tulane's offensive line did an excellent job against a really talented defensive front seven.
And Spears is stupid fast. Let's throw that in too.
Fast. I mean, just flat out pursuit. You watched on some of those third down runs where he just ran to the outside and it was a foot race.
Correct.
And he would get to the corner just quick enough before that outside containment can get to him and get the first down. I mean, he has stupid speed, but it gets to the point where it's like, what are you going to do? But that's where you need to have that surefire open field tackling, and it wasn't there today. It could have been a combination, not just players missing. It could have been mental things. I mean, it could have been who knows how many factors. But the truth is, Tulane was really good at avoiding being brought down.
No, that's a fair point. A lot of quality jukes and moves, good agility overall by Tulane. I can't take that away from them, though. I would be remiss to talk about speed, Drew, without bringing up Willie Fritz himself. Mentioning leaning into this game that he feels like UCF is the fastest team on their schedule that they're going to be looking to face. And B, at halftime, Willie Fritz saying that John Rhys Plumlee is even faster than we imagined.
So, I mean, there was
he should have worked. He should have.
It was a foot race.
I got to tell you, he's got to be disappointed not giving Spears more touches. I think he only had 8 carries, and I mean that kid was speedy, man. He was a good playmaker for them.
Yeah, 8 carries, 130 yards. But when you're playing from behind, and this is again where it comes back to UCF leaving points on the board. When you play from behind, you throw the ball more, and then they start getting back into it. They were able to kind of settle down and get those big chunk yards on the run. If UCF was able to get those extra points on the board, I actually think we'd see less running from Spears and more from Pratt trying to throw the ball. Just that desperation. They didn't have to get desperate until later in the game.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, Drew, because I think you and I both alluded to it in our own way. But at one point in the game, before they were down a little bit bigger, the distribution between run and pass for Tulane was pretty even in ELO. I know we talked about this team being particularly balanced, but the one thing that we have completely overlooked with all the other details, we would be remiss. UCF now officially 3-5 out of the state of Florida.
I know. Hey, we can win out of a different zip code in the state of Florida.
Kyle, to your point, Tulane had more rushing yards than passing yards through 3 quarters.
Great point.
Yeah. It wasn't until that fourth quarter when they were getting desperate.
Mm-hmm.
You're running out.
I know what you're saying. They were behind, but you could still throw the ball to Spears. Like I thought Spears scared me more than Michael Pratt, to be honest.
Well, Michael Pratt, got hit a number of times. He got hit a number of times, and their offensive line just could not stop the onslaught of the pass rush.
It wasn't Britt Barrett against Cincinnati bad.
No, it wasn't that bad, but I mean, it was rough. And he took some hits, and other than the fumble that they were really lucky to avoid, they had the bad exchange. I mean, who you can blame that on? I mean, is it the quarterback? Is it the running back? But there was a bad exchange. There was some miscommunication. But other than that, I mean, he actually had a decently clean game. The receivers had a massive amount of drops. I mean, we've seen early in the year when UCF was struggling with the drops, the mental toughness to hold on the ball and see it through and not try to run before you catch it. That caused all sorts of problems, and it caused Plumlee a lot of problems because
But is that cool? I mean, is that coincidental? Because I don't remember talking about drops when Mikey King was throwing the ball. I mean, that
was no longer an issue by the time he did. This was something that was worked on in the first half of the season, and by midway in the season, this was really not an issue anymore.
Think of it this way. The O-line isn't making some of the basic mistakes, letting guys cross their face, things like that. It's the same with the receivers. They're more sure-handed. To Drew's point, if you're looking for a reference to what Tulane's receivers were doing tonight, I would reference the SMU game and what their receivers did to Tanner Mordecai, right, Drew?
Oh, absolutely. Now, there was times where they were open and they just dropped the ball.
2 in the end zone, I think. Yeah.
I'd have to think back, but there was definitely at least one.
Right.
But I mean that mental aspect, you want to be big time, you want to be the best, you have to beat the best, and that's called not ready for big time. If you don't have that mental fortitude to stay focused on those moments, because remember, the easy passes are the hardest ones to catch. Because they're the easiest ones to mess up because then the pressure's on. It's like, oh my God, it's coming right for me. That last touchdown that Pratt threw, the guy made sure he dropped to his knees so he didn't drop the ball.
Right.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
It's that mental aspect of, I've dropped the ball earlier. I can't afford to drop this one. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Was that a tough time, big man?
All right, I got a couple more. Got some comments here. New follower and reader, listener, Chris Eduardo chimes in. Any chance you think Bowser was running in that wild card instead of throwing if the O-line didn't think it was offsides, or do you think it was a design throw? What do you guys think? Do you think they were going to snap the ball if they didn't see the offside? Do you think were they going to go for it if there was no offsides?
He thought he had a free play, just like when Matt Lee snapped it with the offsides. It was that blatant that even Bowser saw it. And of course,
let me ask you. So if there's no offsides there, do you think they snap it?
Yes, but I don't think they throw it.
Do you think it's a run? So they would have gone for it no matter what. Okay.
Well, look at what the linemen did on the blocking. Right. They blocked for run. It was a designed run.
Okay. No, I just want to make it clear that. Jeff Wiseman, that last drive is why Bowser is so important to this team. You both have defended Bowser when they've had other people calling for Harvey. That last drive, though, was a great Bowser signature drive.
It was early in the year, too, when he was averaging 3 yards a carry. They were calling for him to be benched and stuff. But here's the thing. Bowser's best values are in the short yardage situation and in the fourth quarter because he hits hard. He tires out defenses. I mean, look what he did in that final drive. They rode him. Now, what they probably should have done is used him intermittently, at least in the third quarter. They basically abandoned him in the third quarter, and the run game stalled. I mean, it
that
stalled.
One in the red zone where they should have gone to him, for example.
Oh, yeah. There's no reason why, if you're ever in the short yardage situation, put in your giant battering ram. I mean, what are you doing?
Even Mario Kart characters named Bowser bash people. Hello. Now, Drew, let me ask you this, too. With all that in mind with Bowser, you say he has two important elements. You are neglecting a very important thing.
Well, his blocking element, too. I mean,
thank you. Just by the way.
Yeah, and the good thing is the blocking, the pass blocking actually was really good today. There wasn't all that much, trouble overall. There
was. JRP dodged it in a way that.
Yeah, and that's what he does. Right. That's what you get out of him. So I mean, the fact that they didn't have to sacrifice Bowser as a blocking back, they were able to save him for later. But I still think you need to incrementally use him, especially in those short yardage situations. You want to keep the juices flowing. You don't want him to kind of stall out, and you want defenses to fear. You want them to be afraid when he's on the field, and rotate him around. And even if you don't use him, go with the split back.
Thank you.
Oh God, don't get Kyle going.
Oh man, you have 3 10+ talented running backs. I'm not even counting what you have at quarterback. You have 3+ talented running backs. There is no reason why you can't have 2 of them on the field. You put Bowser and Harvey on the same. You have no idea what you're going to get. All you know is you're going to get hit in the mouth and it's going to hurt.
Man.
We got more comments here. Michael Rakowski, with all the calls being reviewed, it was a great afternoon to watch commercials. Holy smokes! I thought for a minute we were on CBS Sports Network for a while. What the heck, man?
All timed excellently for me to get more beer out the fridge and not miss a second of action, Eric Lopez.
Can we just move it along? Like, good Lord. Like,
oh, by the way, we're still in the second segment of the show because we had to review some tape. We're not in the third segment.
This is true. That's one good thing about Navy next week. It'll be a lot shorter game because
I don't have any yellow things, but there's my flag.
All right, so Brian Peterson wants you guys to verify. Do you think JRP was absolutely a game-time call based on the weather? Do you believe they literally looked at the wind and said, we're going with him, or do you think this was determined days in advance? What's your guys' thought? That's Brian Peterson's question.
I think it was days in advance.
I think days in advance. I think they're gonna say it's the weather.
I think that they had this planned. They like keeping it close to the best because now a team has to plan against two different quarterbacks, so they had a chance to be coy about it. But I think this was always the plan. He was cleared to play last week, but there's no reason to kind of rush things along. We know they want to keep the red shirt. This was going to be a run-heavy game anyway. So you knew what the game plan was going in, so it made sense that he was going to be the guy.
Maybe they called Eric Burris in days in advance and say, hey, is there going to be wind in Tulane? And Burris going to typically freaking out, hyping up all weather systems. Yes, there is. It's going to be terrible, coach. Maybe that's what happened. No?
You just hate weathermen.
He does. That's a fact.
You are anti-weather people.
Yeah, just, settle down, guys, all right? Nobody cares that the eye is opening and widening, and nobody gives a bleep except you dorks, all right?
Well, I don't know. I think the people in Fort Myers actually would have cared about that.
Well, that's different. I think we can figure out when a bad storm's coming our way. I don't think we need graphics of, hey, look at this beautiful eye. It's growing in the 20 miles. No, just tell us what the hell is coming, and we'll figure it out, all right? Stop gloating about, wow, this is such an awesome system.
When you see a pitcher through a complete game shutout in softball, maybe a no-hitter, it's a beautiful thing for you to watch. Well, that's beauty to them. Let them have their beauty.
Ooh, delivering to his audience.
I'm not doing coffee talk to break it down.
Hey, listen.
You do other shows.
Yeah, that's true.
Much highly touted, rated shows that have more audience.
That's neither here nor there.
Mike Jeff Wiseman.
Really quick, Eric, I want to get this point in. I know you and I get along so well. My predictions are right more often than theirs. Boom.
Oh, God. When is a weather guy's prediction even right? They were way off on these two storms, by the way. Nobody will admit it, but they were way off. But anyway, my rant's done. I don't think Jeff Wiseman, I don't think Mikey wants to play in garbage time, but I do think Mikey would burn the red shirt without hesitation if he was needed. What do you think about that, Brian? Jeff Wiseman?
Yeah, we agree. Yeah, I kept alluded to the same. Absolutely.
Yeah, if he was needed, absolutely. But the thing is, they're trying to do something good for him and give him the opportunity to have that red shirt so that he still has 3 more years of eligibility. Mm-hmm. So it's I'm here if you need me. I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna try to get better. But you know what? Just because you're not in the game doesn't mean you're not important.
I mean, look at it from Keene's perspective too. That extra year would be great, but in the unlikely event, in the unfortunate event that JRP gets hurt again, and let's say he unfortunately does so. I don't mean like Mackenzie Milton bad, but like enough to miss the rest of the season, let's say, and he's forced to start and come in. Okay, I have a better opportunity to get more game tape of me coming in the clutch and delivering, and I can be a better prospect as transferring. There's a certain win-win aspect here for Mikey Keene, and you got to respect that.
Yeah, but he's not going to want to play garbage time because it's a waste.
No, and they haven't done that. They haven't done that.
100%.
And they're not going to.
So what you're saying is he's not going to play against the South Florida in 2 weeks when we're up 30 points.
You're more likely to see Timmy McClain. I'm joking.
Well, we see Bill Bone.
Ooh, that could be good. Mark Soskin.
I wouldn't mind seeing Timmy McClain against the Bulls. I'm just saying.
It's not legal, but it would be hilarious.
It could happen. I just said I wouldn't mind seeing it.
I do agree with the Bone part, playing the couple snaps against South Florida. I mean, good Lord, we got to make it at least somewhat of a decent fight.
13 again, you need someone to play.
Mark Soskin, another new listener and reader, has 7 ranked teams already lost this weekend, with 5 other ranked schools still could lose tonight. Tough opponents are playing on the road. People are talking about the rank. I think they're going to move up. I don't know what. I think they're 19 or 20. They're going to end up, and it doesn't matter. Here, you know what the ranking, the one that matters the most? They're going to be the number 1 ranked team in the G5, which means you win out. You're going to Arlington, baby, to Jerry's World. That's what
he
matters.
likes talking like William Shatner.
I don't agree with you, Eric. No, listen, you're wrong. No, I'm kidding. No, let me tell you, the only thing I would disagree with in that assessment, Eric, that the rankings don't matter is how else are teams evaluated but the other rankings, right? So
I'm saying, but my point is, as long as you're the highest ranked G5 team, and they're going to be probably, like I said, 19 or 20 is my prediction. That's fine with me, because you're still going to the bowl, regardless whether you're 12 or 18. Now, in a few years, when this playoff expands, maybe we're having a different conference. Actually, I'll take that back. When next year, when we're in the Big 12, now the rankings matter a little bit more, because that could affect
accent on a little bit there. Yeah,
playoffs, bowl games. But as far as the currently, regardless of where this team is ranked, you win out, you're going to play in the same bowl game.
They've hit their ceiling as far as bowl games go. They're not getting beyond the cotton.
Right. Sure. And that being said, I will give the people what they want. I wouldn't start pounding the table and feeling disrespected unless they're still in the 20s.
Every college football fan feels they're disrespected.
That's not the point. I'm telling you where they should. All right. I am dictating with some voice.
Whoa, dictating, Kyle.
Hey, listen, Stephen A. Smith can do it. Why can't I'm kidding.
Well, I think 19 is very realistic.
Yeah, 19, 20, yeah.
North Carolina, Tulane, and Illinois all lost. They're going to drop down, and they're going to drop down enough that UCF can overtake them. I don't, even because of the ugly win, I don't know if Notre Dame's going to get pushed down below UCF.
Oh, they'll never do that. There's a former board of trustee member on the damn committee. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, but on the committee, Terry Mohajir was there until he moved to UCF because it had to be a Sun Belt guy. So, I mean, I take some of that.
Right. But here's the thing. Just take care. Beat Navy. Beat South Florida. Just take care of it. It's all in your control. It's a beautiful situation. Honestly, guys, we're really fortunate. I with 2 losses to have control of getting to New Year's 6, that's not the norm here. This is a unique year where we've had, everybody's got 2 losses that's relevant. I know Coastal maybe doesn't, but to me, I look at it as, man, we're in a good spot here. You're going to play a bad Navy team. And I know people are going to push about Navy, but Kyle, you said this even before the year. We lost to Navy last year. You don't think these players remember that? Like, there's no way they're looking past Navy. And then South Florida can't beat right now Miami Central High School.
They did compete with U of F, though, in Cincinnati. So, what
does that say? Well, because they were probably napping. They were kind of laughing. Like, we have to play this game? Hey. By the way, Jeff Scott's no longer there, though. So,
well, whole other thing, too. That might be an improvement there.
Soskin, by the way, he said that Spears' thigh was hurting pretty badly, which is why they were shutting him in and out. Well, maybe I didn't notice that.
Probably a little bit, but you there's a certain point where ride the horse. Certain point, shut him down. I could tell they wanted it, but yeah, he was hobbling a bit. It's a very valid point.
Yeah. Steve Collins, by the way, right up your alley, boys. You're gonna love this one. Steve Collins with his comment here. Our O-line and D-line deserve the game ball. Outstanding job, huh?
Yeah,
huh?
They
not so much the D-line, but the O-line all night.
The offensive line was the most consistent position group of the day, even on times when things sometimes looked a little murky. They did their job. The running back's success was based on them. Look at the big 67-yard touchdown. There was a hole in the middle, so big you can drive not 1 but 2 Mack trucks through them.
What was it that our own Jeff Sharon said in the group chat? Yeah, right. That stat boy could hit that hole carrying me, Eric Lopez, and Jeff Sharon. Shoulder handling that.
Oh wait, we got some breaking news here, boys.
You're bigger than I am. Jeez.
we got some breaking news. This will affect Kyle. Maybe not as much. It won't affect Drew as much, but it will affect a lot of people. The UCF Navy start time has been announced, and there it is. Senior night is really more like senior morning. That's right. 11 a.m. Eastern kick, folks.
Woo, put the coffee on, ladies and gentlemen.
It'll be on ESPN2. Thoughts on the kick? I think this is the earliest start time for a UCF home football game that I can remember, guys. I don't remember an 11 a.m.
By the way, on another note, Elo, I believe the last time there was a noon kick was right here in Orlando, obviously, against Navy.
I was there. And that was a beautiful game. It was a beautiful day. It was a quick game, 3 hours. The reason why this is 11 a.m., it's kind of weird. I looked at my TV listings. It seems like ESPN2 is going to have like a quadruple header that day. And the way to do that is by having games at 11, 2:15, 5, and 8. I think that's what they're trying to do. It's a unique start time. I'm not looking forward to the puns this week about, oh, are they going to sleep through this game? Is it going to be a sleepwalk? Oh, is the crowd, what are the fans going to do for an 11 a.m.? We're going to get all that stuff. But 11 a.m. on the Deuce, Kyle. So get up early. Drew, you're not going to be there for the morning kick.
No. I'll be watching in my hotel room in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay,
but I'll still be doing everything I normally do.
Isn't that 10 a.m. then? Is that 10 a.m. over there?
No, it's Eastern time.
Okay.
Maybe Chicago is Central Time, but Ohio is Eastern Time.
It's weird, Ohio. It's the Midwest, but it's on Eastern Time. I don't get it, Drew.
Well, it's the borderline between the Mid-Atlantic and the Midwest.
It doesn't matter what the borderline is.
They try to draw the line at Pennsylvania and Ohio.
Good historical reference, by the way, sir. No, listen, for that in my mind, honestly, here's a pop quiz for me. If you're looking for a trap between here and there, albeit memories being fresh from Mikey Keene's start and how that game was dropped, fellas, I got to tell you, I'm a little worried about that one with the way we are observing injuries up front in the defensive front, right? So that's going to be a big deal when you're trying to practice up to face the option. I mean,
let's take it up a notch. Look what Navy did against Notre Dame today. Notre Dame had 35 points at halftime. They ended up with 35 points at the end of the game. 16 of Navy's 32 were scored in the fourth quarter. That's what they did to UCF. They absolutely destroyed them in the fourth quarter. That's what Navy does. So you need to build up that lead. You can't leave points on the field like they did tonight. And if you want to be able to beat a team like Navy that specializes in tiring you out, and when you have a defense that's thin from injuries, which we hope players come back, but right now they're a little thin, that's like they're going to salivate over that. So you need to be ready to hit hard on the offense, get those points on the board, and then hold on for dear life as that fourth quarter goes on.
All right, let's play a clip here. We got Gus Malzahn audio after the game, courtesy of our good friend Trace Trucca, who, with some friends, drove all the way from Orlando to New Orleans. How about that? How about Trace knocking it out of the park?
President Fly, that man's got like an unlimited travel budget.
Seriously, what a budget on the Trace Trucca. I guarantee it's not coming from Sons of UCF budget.
Also, only uses 3 syllables to pronounce New Orleans. Anyways.
Correct. All right, here's Gus. Here's Gus's opening thoughts, and you guys can react.
Okay, first of all, real proud of our team. Going on the road, top 20 opponent on the road, one of the biggest games they've had here probably in a long, long time. And our guys played really well. Defensively, we were down 3 starters. We were playing a bunch of young guys, and guys hadn't played a lot. Thought they battled. We forced 3 fumbles. We almost got the one right there that would have been big, but 2 turnovers. Offensively, we knew we had to run the ball. That's a big-time defense, and they drop 8 a lot. And people have had trouble running the football. We just felt real strong that we had to get off to a good start running the football. 300, whatever yards rushing. Could be more proud of our offensive line and running backs. John Rhys showed a lot of guts, a lot of heart. And I thought our receivers blocked on the perimeter. But really big win for us, and real proud of our guys, the way they competed. Okay.
It's interesting, Eric. He mentions coming out with being successful with the run. He opened throwing the dang thing. He was setting the table. Saying.
Fair.
Yeah, he kind of hit things that we talked about. He didn't want to say there was missed opportunities, but there were missed opportunities. But he kind of tap danced around it.
I don't think he mentioned penalties, which I did have on my bingo card here, but that's
well, it's only the opening statement. Yeah, there's plenty of room for that.
Hey, but I know it's only the open statement, but Drew, listen, as somebody who's in there regularly when he does do them at home, because I don't have Trace's travel budget, he normally mentions that in the opening statement.
Yeah, you may not have his unlimited travel budget but you're the one who's always dressed to impress.
Well, that is true.
Dressed to impress here.
Yeah, he wears his tie. I mean, how can you not be like, hey?
All right, Eric Edwards says, how many people are buying tickets for Gus versus Nick Saban in Dallas? Wow. First of all, we're not playing Nick Saban in Dallas.
It's not happening. Yeah, it's not happening.
Bowl projections, Drew. We got to do bowl projections now. I have to be on the air.
And I'll tell you who's not going to be in the Cotton Bowl. It's not going to be Alabama.
Who is it?
Not an SEC team.
Ooh, there's a tease. Are you gonna chime in? Are you gonna contribute to this bowl projections, Kyle?
Probably not, but I would like to take a moment of silence for my first responder bowl prediction.
Oh yeah, that's dead.
Well, look at it this way: you weren't far off from a geography standpoint. You were just, wrong bowl in the state.
And hey, at the end of the day, could see another Florida team get into the first responder bowl. Your Noel's not looking so hot there, Elo. I'm throwing that out there. Saying. No comment.
He's like, I don't know what to say. I just got thrown under the bus for them being my Knowles.
It would be the first time.
Oh, actually, it's because his mic went. He's quiet.
Yeah, I'm muted because I'm trying to get some more audio for you gentlemen because we got more Gus.
Oh,
who wants more Gus, huh?
He called us gentlemen. That's really something.
That's how I know I hurt his feelings. He's getting serious with me. No, listen. But no, that in mind, listen, the Miami pick probably won't happen either, but FSU to first responder could still happen.
Dude, you're going to see FSU in Orlando at the Cheez-It Bowl. I'm calling it right now. They're not leaving the state. But or they might go to Jacksonville. Your two favorite cities, Kyle, Orlando or Jacksonville.
Yeah, I have a quota for going to Jacksonville in a year, and it's 0. I try to keep it that way.
I'll tell you, a guy that's not thinking about Jacksonville is Gus Malzahn, who addresses JRP starting. Ooh, let's hear it. What Gus had to say.
You don't lose your position with an injury. And really, that's the way that I went about it. Mikey's a starter with his own right. Y'all know that. And, I felt like we need to start him. I possibly could have played Mikey. We're going to do whatever it takes to win at this point. But John Rhys just, the way he ran the ball, he changed the game early. Anytime the quarterback's a run threat like he was, it opened up everything else on the outside. And, he had a really, really good game.
Coach, Tulane had only given up 127 yards average rushing. Talk about your rushing performance a little bit more, and particularly Isaiah Bowser down the stretch there.
Well, was that a thing of beauty, that last drive? He's one of the best backs in college football, and he showed that. He imposed his will. Our offensive line, I need to say this, our offensive line's a really good offensive line. I know early on people were questioning this and that. It took them a little bit to gel. But the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've played great football, and to have that many yards rushing against that team says a lot about those guys, and couldn't be more proud of those guys also.
Coach, can you talk about how important it was for the young guys on that defense with some big key contributors out?
Yeah.
Stepped in and we saw
Yeah, it stresses you a little bit. You got them young guys out there in key moments, but man, they competed and they did a good job. It was next man up mentality. Our guys, this is the biggest game of the year. Y'all knew that. Our guys knew that. And next man up. They competed hard. They played extremely hard. You got to give Tulane credit. They're a really good football team. They got a really good head coach. And for us to win here, it's really big for us.
They got to Michael Pratt quite a bit.
Yeah.
We pressured him.
Yeah, we did. And Ricky Barber came on. Now, he had a really good game again, and we were able to hit him. We didn't hit the quarterback against Memphis very much, and so Trav dialed up some things, and guys got after the quarterback, and we made him uncomfortable at times, but he's a really good quarterback too now. They got really good players.
And listen,
there you go.
Coach is right about a lot of stuff there too. Pratt, as a younger guy, I expect Tulane to have a field day in the upcoming American Conference in its new makeup, simply on the strength of the fact that it'll be pretty well established at the quarterback position. I'm not saying it's going to be like in 2017 with the Eric King and Mackenzie Milton basically handing off the offensive player award week to week for the conference, but I think they're going to definitely be one of the front runners.
Who cares? We're going to be in the Big 12. We don't care at that point. What they can do it anyway.
Hey, listen, taking that attitude is how you end up losing to like the next UCF. That winter is coming, my friend.
Listen, we got to worry about our own deal. But I want to address a couple things you mentioned. You don't lose your job over injury. Right. Kyle, you brought that up on the podcast.
I did.
You nailed it.
First time. That's not the first time Gus has said that.
That's number one. Number two, how about him going after, talking about we have a good offensive line. I know some people went after him early in the year. Was he calling you both out?
No, because if you'll also acknowledge 3 or 4 weeks ago, they started playing really good. Who said that 3 weeks ago that the Cincinnati game was their best game and they turned a corner?
Sure.
Also this guy.
Drew, what stood out to you of the Gus comments there?
Well, he even though he kind of danced around it, but it made it sound like this was the game plan. They knew what they wanted to do this week, and the game plan was to use John Rhys as the guy. They had a plan. It was going to be to run the ball, and if you want to run the ball, you go with the guy that has the legs to do it. So it just kind of goes back to what we're saying, that it wasn't a last minute decision, but I think the weather just kind of cemented it.
Correct.
And even though he didn't say it before, he said it at the Cincinnati game. It goes back also the whole red shirt thing. If he doesn't need to use Mikey, he's not going to.
Right. And he's been clear about that too, frankly.
Yeah, and he wants to win, and he wants to win. He's not milling anything in. He's not punting anything.
Right. Just good. Right.
Unlike a certain person on this podcast who, before the season, said this year didn't matter,
or that it should be canceled.
Yeah,
I didn't say it was canceled. I'm just saying it's not the end of the world if you don't win the conference this year. That's all I'm saying.
It's not the end of the world if you don't win the
and
conference.
let's be real. No, let's be real, guys. We weren't expecting a 2-loss team to be in this position for New York, because it's not like our picks are like I think Drew, you and I said they would lose twice this year. Drew, Kyle, how many losses you had them losing? 3? 2, 3?
I was the one that had 2. I think you guys were at 1.
I think
I had them losing.
I had them losing a third game that was their bowl game.
Okay.
I had them losing 3 because I had them losing the conference championship game.
I think I had them at, I don't know. We'll have to look back. But the point is, we didn't think they would be in this position.
Yeah, I was completely
right.
They're not even in the conference championship in my bracket. So there you go.
Right. So I think, to me, this has been pleasant. If this was a different year, maybe we're having a totally different conference, but we're not. It's a beautiful thing. It's 2022. They've got a chance to cash in. They got a chance to get everything they want. Short term, win a conference championship. Long term, make yourself better by going to the Big 12 and perhaps having an experienced quarterback ready to go among other players for the Big. This is a win-win situation. I think it's just I respect the staff for making this
winning
move.
Winning is always a winning situation because it's winning. It's you don't usually do that unless you're trying to compensate for something, such as like not playing Mikey King is a win-win when the team's winning because he's also getting to maintain his red shirt. That's where you kind of make that. But the truth is, this was a good team in the American going into the season. They were ranked in the top 4 of the conference. They were expected to compete. This isn't that much of a surprise. But the big surprise is the lack of compete out of Dana Holgerson and the Houston Kitty Cats.
Houston and SMU. Kyle, that was your team, SMU. I had Houston, in fairness, so we're both in the same boat. Those defenses.
You told me how much of a genius you and Drew were with your Houston pick. Hey, at the end of the day,
I always thought Drew was a smart guy. So he's not perfect.
Well, and the thing was, I don't look at Eric's work when he picks his stuff out. He definitely looks at my work.
Well, he's a smart, because I'm trying to find what the smart people are saying. So he's a smart guy.
I don't think anyone, as you can see from the media poll, I don't think anyone really expected Houston to just choke. I've never been a Dana Holgerson fan.
Neither have I.
Back to West Virginia.
Shame on me.
But no one really expected such a talented team that did so well last year, that had so much talent, just fall
That
apart.
was the shocking thing, is Houston returned a lot of personnel, pretty schedule that was pretty favorable, and they didn't take advantage of it.
And then you have Cincinnati.
What's the key place they didn't have a lot of returners, Eric Lopez?
Well, they had returners in the key positions. Clayton Tunes.
What part of the team did they not have a lot of?
In the line.
In the offensive line. Thank you, Kerry.
But then you look at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's defense was gutted by the NFL draft because they were that good. And so people thought, okay, they're going to take a step. And you know what? They're still pretty good.
I think they're playing with house money because you're right.
Totally.
Because even if they don't win the conference this year, they got a good nucleus going into the Big 12. So I think they should be feeling pretty good. And look, let's get into this because now let's look at the picture here. Let's start with UCF. Are you either of you concerned about Navy next week as far as a loss? I know you're saying they could give them a game. You got the scheme, but are you genuinely concerned that they can lose this game? Either one of you?
Absolutely.
This is the guy that's concerned about this game. It's Admiral Akbar.
It's a trap.
All right, that reference went
The
over my
answer to your question is absolutely.
Really? Okay, so you're concerned.
Absolutely. No, this is actually what a trap game really is.
Really? Even though they lost to them last year?
No, I don't think the reason why, because them losing to them last year can easily be written off as, well,
Mikey Keene's first start.
So many injuries. Oh my God, Justin Hodges' first game is playing the night position. There's so many excuses that can.
Did you just go Durka?
I really did.
He did. Yeah, he really did. I was
Listen. No, I mean, but you guys get what I'm getting at. It'd be really easy to discount that loss. This isn't Louisville where they're going to necessarily be out for blood. They're just going to be here, so to speak, not literally, obviously. They're just going to be trying here to even the score. That being said, I'm not saying that USF is the trap. It's that conference championship that you're looking.
Well, let me ask you. So you're
a rivalry game. There's difference.
Are you more concerned about Navy or South Florida?
Navy.
Yeah.
Navy has, when you deal with a triple option team like Navy, they can do really well or really poorly, and they have a chance to sneak up. They were an onside kick recovery away from having a legitimate chance of beating Notre Dame.
Is this your fault, Drew? If they lose to Navy because you're not going to be in attendance, is this on you then? Is that where
no, that streak ended with Louisville.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, Louisville was the first game that I covered in Bryson. You get lost. And Bryson Turner is planning on taking my place, but I don't think
he can get up that early. It's 11 a.m. Those kids.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does have. He has the college student sleep schedule.
Boy, I can't wait for those tweets about where's the students. Oh God, that's gonna be.
Yeah, they're too hungover from.
All right, but like, would you agree with this? Whether you're concerned about Navy or not, you would agree that UCF if I would have told you that you've got 2 wins. You got to beat Navy at home at USF to win to get to the conference championship game and host it. You take it. Compared to what the
path. And they even talked about Tulane's got to play SMU and Cincinnati.
Yes, and that's what.
That's not enviable.
And that's what I wanted to allude to. So from UCF, I personally think Tulane's going to lose out. I think SMU will outscore them. It could be the game should probably air on NBA TV because it could be like 1st to 70.
There you go. Bet the over.
Yeah. And I think Cincinnati's going to beat them on Black Friday. I think it's going to be UCF Cincinnati part 2.
Part 2. Yeah, right. I think you have a good basis with the Cincy game because I believe up front that Cincy will dominate just as UCF did. However, I don't necessarily agree with it's going to be a shootout. But I think the ability of Spears to run, I like him better than the ground game opportunity for SMU. Not to say that they don't have one, but I think they have the better ability to control the ball. If somehow they get lucky, Tanner Mordecai makes a mistake, whatever happens, if they find themselves up 2 scores, they can bring it to the ground, reduce the chances that Tanner Mordecai has on offense with SMU, and we can work from. And
let me ask you both this, and I want our audience if they know the answer to this. I may look this up. What if SMU were to beat Tulane, and then Tulane beat Cincinnati? Who gets the slot?
SMU beats Cincinnati, and then SMU beats Tulane, and Tulane beats Cincinnati.
Right, because that would drop Cincinnati to 2 losses. Tulane would have 2 losses.
Oh right? Yeah, UCF, right?
Well,
if they beat Cincinnati head to head, they'd still have the advantage.
Tulane.
Well. The second tiebreaker is based on the CFP ranking.
That's right.
So look at Houston's remaining schedule: East Carolina, Tulsa. SMU's remaining schedule. Let's see, where's SMU's remaining schedule? Let's find SMU's. I had it for just a moment. Of course, my window decided to close on me. And
with that in mind, and no, that's a good point about the ranking. Also, I think. I'll put it this way. SMU beating Tulane would be more of an upset than Cincinnati doing it. So I think that's worth mentioning as well, right?
Well, yeah. So you have Tulane and Memphis for SMU. You have East Carolina, Tulsa for for Houston. So you potentially could end up having 4 teams with 2 losses, potentially.
Right. What do you do then? Like, that's a wild scenario that nobody's even brought up, but I think it's somewhat realistic. I don't think it'll happen. I think Cincinnati's going to beat Tulane, but that is in play.
If
Lord help us if UCF were to drop one of the games and they're thrown into the mix with everybody at 2 losses. Holy smokes.
Well, actually, in that again, because it would come down to head-to-head at some point, and also highest ranking, Drew. Yeah, I know. But I think that the fact that UCF has beaten 2 of the teams would matter.
I would think so. But that's a wild scenario that could play out. So that SMU Tulane game is pretty important, and I'm kind of curious how Tulane will come out there. But I'm going on record. I think it's going to be Cincinnati at UCF.
Oh, if you're degenerate and you can bet it, yes.
Do you agree or disagree with that, Drew? You have a different. You think Tulane could beat Cincinnati, or what's your thought as of right now?
Well, every team's mortal. I mean, it really depends on the overall factors that go into the game. Look at what happened with UCF. They had in the first half they had weather that was very favorable, and things happen during the game. Any team can win any game on any given day. So, I mean, are they both good teams? Yeah. Do I, look at Cincinnati. They barely squeaked by against East Carolina. And if you actually look at how Cincinnati scored, kickoff return touchdown, 2 plays that were 50-plus yard touchdowns. I mean, they were big plays. They didn't score on sustained drives against East Carolina. So, I mean, it's just because they won that game doesn't necessarily mean they had a great game. It just you had key plays that worked out in your favor, especially the kickoff return, because those get a touchdown out of that so few and far between. So absolutely, Tulane could beat Cincinnati.
Black Friday looks like they made the right decision putting that game on Black Friday because there's going to be
absolutely.
Right.
It was a gimme. Once you realized that USF was not worth anything, you knew that game was done. And once Tulane started collecting votes in the top 25, that's when they pulled the trigger.
By the way,
it's going to be
and we should find out, if not this Monday, at some point next week, we'll find out the kick time for the South Florida game on that Saturday. I think it's going to be that could be a noon game too, by the way. That could be a noon ESPNU type of a ball game there. So we could have back-to-back early kicks for UCF here. And then the conference championship game, I haven't seen it officially, but my guess is they'll be on ABC at 3:30 like they've done the last few years.
Well, hey, that works for me because that'll still be 11 a.m. for me. I'll be in the central time zone when that USF kick happens. There you go.
That's right. You're going to be out of town for that. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, wait, what Eric, what city is he going to be in?
Nolans?
My man.
Nolans? A lot of ways to say it, too. New Orleans, Nolans.
So long as you don't make it, so long as you don't make leans, Leannes.
I think we can agree on this. Tulane, really? 27,000? You couldn't fill out the damn stadium? Good Lord. No wonder game day passed you by. Good Lord. Do better. What, everybody was watching LSU Arkansas? What are you guys doing? Yeah, you probably were, actually.
Actually, that was a close game. I was watching Vanderbilt, Kentucky.
I was stunned by the camera shots. Like, this is your biggest game you've had in like 70 years. And the place
there was stuff going on with the cameras. It was like the main camera wasn't functional at one point. I mean, there was
the mic wasn't functional at one point.
There was that's an ID10T error.
Oh, was it? Okay.
All right.
ID10T was calling the game that way, and that's a fact. Anyways,
that's a level 1 air resistance error.
Very good. All right, let's wrap this up here. Is other things you want to bring up that we haven't brought up as far as today's game and moving forward? Either way.
I'm looking forward to seeing how the defense rests and gets back. They're going
to get some bodies. Try to get those guys back.
Yeah, missing Jean Baptiste and Devon Wilson. That they had concussions last week and they were out. And you take your time with them, but you hope that they come back. As we know, Plumlee passed the concussion protocol before last week's game. They opted not to use him. Here's the truth. They're going to need him next week, these defensive players.
Although that's a bad matchup to come back from being not healthy against Navy in the way they schemed. I mean, that's a physical game for the defense.
At least those guys would have seen it before.
Sure.
Yeah, they've all experienced it. They've had the Navy.
And by the way,
experience.
I think it benefit UCF that the South Florida game is on a Saturday and not Friday, because they could have had a short week after a Navy game, which I don't think has been brought up. I actually think this game being on a Saturday this year really has benefited UCF in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, it never hurts to have that extra day of rest and preparation. Granted, USF is not a good team. They're team in complete disarray.
Come on, they had a packed house of dozens of people today for SMU.
Their quarterback got knocked out of the game. They had a true freshman having to come in and play.
I think they're going to have a third string quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the wheels have fallen off. I mean,
one of you might get called in if you're in the press box, Drew. You might get called to play some snaps for them.
I wonder if I have any eligibility left. I mean, I haven't done it in a while, but man, no,
can't be any worse than any of the quarterbacks they've had.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any more eligibility.
What is that crowd? That crowd, that's going to be like a de facto home game, right? Like nobody at USF, no USF fan's going to go to that game.
Well, I mean,
and that's from
except for the 50. That's true. I mean, the 50 fans they have left. I
mean, they're expecting to get the door blown in. I mean, there's fans that want 64-12 to kind of look like child's play.
God, you know what? I can't even imagine what the spread's going to be like for that game. 17, 20 points.
Oh, it's got to be it's going to be at least 3 touchdowns easily.
As Chris Berman would say, some spread, huh? That's a commercial with Howie.
Yeah, there's going to be some lox and bagels and cream cheese.
A Taco Bell commercial, if I remember correctly.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
No, way before that.
Kyle, your final thoughts.
Viva Gordita.
No, that's
a lot of Spanish on this show, by the way. Love it. Huevos, viva. That's good.
Yes, and one bit to describe Drew lately, tonto. Anyways, I got Eric on that one, baby. Woo! No, listen, my final thought is for all you Mikey Keene holdouts, accept it as fact. You'll be stuck JR pouting for the rest of this season. And Drew, as the stat boy extraordinaire, has given you every reason why. Because Coach Malzahn has made it clear that he's going to respect the eligibility, and unless something goes completely wrong, and then maybe you'll get your wish. But if you want to wish for another young man to be hurt, well, you got a lot of big
enjoy the wins, right? Enjoy the wins,
you got a lot of problems than disagreeing with me or anybody else if you are actually going that far. I'll leave it at that.
Hey, let's enjoy. This has been a great weekend. Men's basketball knocked off Florida State. Which first time they've beaten Florida State at home, second straight time they've beaten the Seminoles. I don't care that FSU is shorthanded. UCF's got their own injuries. That was a fun game. Kyle, you and I were there. I got to call the game on the radio. Thank you.
Yeah, that was amazing, actually.
That was pretty fun. Thanks to everybody that made that happen, Mark Daniels and company. And then football with a big win over Tulane. I mean, this has been a big, big weekend of part of a successful fall. Volleyball's having a great year in the top 25. Women's soccer's in the NCAA tournament. Good luck to them in Raleigh against NC State. So this is fun time at UCF. So let's enjoy it, because you know who wouldn't be enjoying all this is our good friend James, COSAC advisor, who's upstairs watching. He enjoyed the sport. He would have enjoyed this weekend. He's enjoying it. I know he's enjoying it because he's watching it from above. And we'll miss him, but we know he'll be following, and he'll be in his own way. He'll be sending us questions and comments and tweets in his own way. We're certainly thoughts with him. We dedicate this show to him. That's why we called the chat room there today, the COSAC Advisor chat room. Thanks to everybody who contributed to that, and all the best wishes there to him and his family on this tough time. And I think, UCF made themselves proud today to be a Knight. So for Kyle Nash, for Andrew Glukoff, I'm Eric Lopez. We will leave you with a silent tear in memory of James and say, go Knights and charge on. You've been watching Night Shift.